G'day my fellow media collectors, I'm Troy and today we're looking at Superman is a live action superhero movie that was produced by Dovemead Limited and International Films Productions. The movie was released into theatres on the 15th of December 1978. Superman was the first major Hollywood superhero movie with a large budget, estimated at $55 million, a massive amount for the time in the late 70s. One of the big selling points of the movie was the tagline in promotions, "You'll believe a man can fly." And to achieve this, the film used a combination of special effects that were revolutionary at the time. This movie has a runtime of 143 minutes. It was first released on 4K HD on the 6th of November 2018. And it was distributed by Warner Bros. Home Video. This movie starts on the planet Kryton that is on the verge of self-destruction. Knowing the planet's impending doom, a scientist named Jor-El sends his infant son, Kal-El, on a spaceship to Earth to save his life. When he lands on Earth, he is discovered by kindly farmers Jonathan and Martha Kent, who adopt him as their own. As Clark grows up, he discovers he has amazing superhuman powers and, when old enough, moves to Metropolis to fight for justice as Superman. Along the way, he becomes a reporter for the Daily Planet and becomes enamored with his co-worker Lois Lane. But the villainous Lex Luthor hatches a plan to destroy the west coast of America for a real estate scheme. Can Superman stop this evil plan and save innocent civilians of California? The script for Superman is very much a bold, ambitious and heartfelt adaptation that kind of set the standard for superhero storytelling of all films that came after it. While it has a couple of flaws, like a weak villain plot and a bit of a lazy ending, it excels in character development, world building and making Superman an inspiring cinematic hero that you can kind of look past some of those flaws and still class this as probably one of the greatest superhero movies of all time. One of the criticisms of this movie that I kind of actually think is done well is the actual shifting of tones throughout the movie, from epic fantasy on Kryton to a coming-of-age drama in Smallville to a romantic comedy in Metropolis to the comic book adventure trying to stop Lex Luthor's scheme. And it kind of makes the film feel very broad and epic while taking you on this sort of entertaining journey through Superman's life. I actually think it's quite good. As good as this script is, our main villain of the story, Lex Luthor, really gets undersold as the kind of villain he usually is in the comics as opposed to what he was in this movie. As in this movie, he leans into a very campy, almost comedic version of the villain, full of witty quips, but his master plan, a real estate destruction for profit scheme, is, look, it's oddly creative, but it's a bit underwhelming and undercuts his menace as the lead villain compared to what he's like in the comic books. And of course, the most controversial part of this script is Superman's, you know it, reversing time to save Lois Lane by flying around the Earth. While visually dramatic, it doesn't follow logical rules and it feels like an easy fix, which then opens a whole can of worms about time travel and the fact that he only did it to save Lois, but not really for anyone else who might have perished in that earthquake. So, not really a good look for old Supes there. In a nutshell, it still stands the test of time as a legendary superhero script that laid the foundation for future comic book movies, even if there were a couple of little weak spots, shall we say. But for all that, honestly, it's quite an epic movie and it stands the test of time. So look, I couldn't give it any less than 25 out of 30. Now, of course, this movie is based off the comic book of the same name from DC Comics, and the film closely follows Superman's golden and silver age origins very closely, including his escape from Kryton, his upbringing in Smallville, and his move to Metropolis to become the world-famous reporter for the Daily Planet. They also managed to recreate to almost perfection the look of Superman and Clark Kent, as was inspired by the golden age of comic books. And to this day, it has been the standard that any Superman that has come after it needs to emulate. And New York City provides a great backdrop as the hustle and bustle of Metropolis. Though I can't say I ever saw the Empire State Building or Statue of Liberty in Metropolis in the comics, but we'll let that one slide.
Well, maybe nobody noticed.
But of course, the movie does take the usual Hollywood liberties with the source material that they always love to do. And like, say, some of Superman powers, let's have a look at some of them. For example, of course, yes, you know, the big one, the controversial ending where Superman reverses time by flying around the Earth. That was a cinematic invention and was not from the comics, I'll tell you that right now. And also in the comics, Lex Luthor is traditionally a mad scientist, but in this film, he's reimagined as a charismatic criminal mastermind obsessed with real estate. So does that just make him a real estate agent though?
God, I hate estate agents.
Now I will bring up the cast here. And of course, my God, look at that list of actors. It is a stellar roll call of actors for the 70s. Honestly, there isn't anyone here that did a bad job. They all did a great job, all in their respective roles. It is definitely a who's who. Honestly, they assembled a great cast. Look, I could talk about all of them all day, but I'm just going to focus just on a few of our main ones. And of course, we'll start with our main star, Mr. Christopher Reeve as Clark Kent, aka Superman. Now, this was a career-defining performance for him, perfectly balancing the dual roles of Superman and Clark Kent, truly making it feel like they were two separate people playing two separate characters. He is literally the heart and soul of this film, and Reeve doesn't just play Superman, he becomes him. His portrayal literally remains the gold standard for that character to this day. Now, Margot Kidder as Lois Lane displays this bold, independent and witty personality, with Kidder managing to capture the spirit of the character from the comics, portraying Lois as this tough as nails, fast talking, no nonsense news reporter, rather than just a damsel in distress for Superman to save, making it one of the most memorable versions of the character on screen, striking a great balance between strength and vulnerability. And of course, we have Gene Hackman as Lex Luthor. He portrays more of a charismatic, eccentric villain, being more comedic in this film than, say, menacing like he is in the comics. Now, Hackman plays Lex as this witty, arrogant and self-assured, you know, constantly delivering this sharp dialogue and entertaining banter. He brings a real energy and humor to the role, but let's face it, his campy portrayal sort of lacks the menace of the Lex Luthor that really needs to go up against Superman as his main arch nemesis. Now, last but not least, we have to mention Marlon Brando as Jor-El. He was one of the most high-profile actors in this film at the time, with, get this, $3.7 million salary for just 10 minutes of screen time. And let's face it, that was majorly controversial back in the day. But you gotta admit, it was worth it, as Brando brings this real gravitas and wisdom to Superman's father, Jor-El, with his authoritative yet poetic delivery, making any scene he was in feel grand and mythical. Even though Brando, despite only appearing briefly, commanded the scene he was in every time, and it made a real lasting impression on the movie that this role still gets talked about to this day, just like I'm doing now.
This is totally meta.
Look, for all of this, this part of the movie, it is nothing short of perfection, that is for sure, with just a couple of little hiccups here and there. So for that, look, I can't give it anything else but, yep, 19 out of 20. Okay, let's have a look at the disc in case, and yes, I like this. I think, yeah, as I'm going through all these, they all look very similar, but they all look pretty good, and they really represent the whole Superman aesthetic. So not bad there. And then on the side, yeah, they all look good together. Trust me, that writing's not too bad. On the back, we've just got Superman and Lois flying along with all of the stuff that's in there, which there is a fair bit in there. But yeah, it looks good. Like, I think they did a pretty good job. So if we look at the discs, because this is the 4K and Blu-ray version. So yeah, definitely the way to go. So you got both. Not that I don't have like 6 or 7 versions of it up there right now. So yeah, honestly, I really like the look of these ones. They did a good job with the 4K versions, hence why I couldn't wait to get a hold of them. So for that, definitely going to have to give this one, I reckon I'm going to give this an 8 out of 10. So look, there are a few special features on this 4K version, but look, they're pretty much all of the same stuff that you've seen on all the previous DVD and Blu-ray releases out there. So look, there's nothing really new here in that sense, other than just one thing they've added on the 4K disc, and that is a commentary by Iliad Salkin and Perry Spengler, just for the 4K release. But you also have all of the other stuff, which is a commentary by Richard Donner and Tom Mankiewicz, I hope I pronounced that right, on the Blu-ray. And then you have Taking Flight, the development of Superman, Making Superman, filming The Legend, Superman screen test, music only track, TV spots, teaser trailer, and theatrical trailer. So some great nostalgic stuff here, looking back at how they did things back in the day and the risk that it was for this big budget superhero film back in the late 70s. So for that, honestly, it is a great look back. Granted, it's nothing new we haven't already seen on everything else out there. So look, for that, I'm still going to give it a 7 out of 10. As I bring up the Rotten Tomatoes scorecard, as you can see, the critics came in at 93%, while the audience score came in at 86%. So look, no surprises here at all. This movie is so well loved by everybody, critics and audiences alike. Honestly, the reviews, they just shower it in praise with how well it's done, and it's got all the feels of nostalgia behind it, and all the reviews that are there, like, they just show the love for this movie. And let's face it, there is no real case to argue with that. Like, I feel the same way. It's just one of those movies that, yeah, everyone has a soft spot for. So if we round it all out, we get a score of course we do, 9 out of 10. So tell me, how do I review this movie? That has been reviewed by everyone and anyone so many times over the last 50 years. Yep, 50 years. You really can't. There is nothing that I can say about this movie that hasn't already been said 1,000 times before anyway. So for this, I'm not actually going to give it my review as such, as I'm just going to talk about what this movie means to me. as a fan of this superhero stuff that we love to watch. And I would have to say, for me, as far as I can remember, it was probably the first live action superhero piece of content I ever saw. Before I ever saw like Wonder Woman or Batman 66 as a young kid that I can think of, I'm pretty sure. And this movie has stuck with me for all those years as a real special place in my heart, as it just makes you, it just inspired my imagination. And it was such a classic movie that I've enjoyed watching it again and again and again, every time it either come up on TV or had the opportunity to watch it. Now, it never made me a Superman or superhero fan as such. Let's face it, that prize goes to the Super Friends and Batman 66. But still, it was something I have real great nostalgia for and just have fond memories of watching it when I was a kid. Hence why I get a bit carried away with the collection, if you know what I mean. So yeah, as you can see, kind of got a bit carried away with trying to get every version. Look, let me know in the comments down below what this movie means to you. And look, I would love to hear your stories, honestly would, because I know it means a lot of things to a lot of different people. So for that, let's face it, with that type of review and what it means and all that type of stuff, there is no other score that I could give it other than 20 out of 20. So as far as availability goes, I'm definitely going to give this a 1 out of 5, as oh my god, you can get every version anywhere super easy. It is not hard to find by any stretch of the imagination. It is everywhere. So yeah, you won't have to try too hard to find a copy. Now, as far as collectability goes, of course, this is a 5 out of 5. This is an absolute must-have for any collector, whether you are just a casual fan or a hardcore fan. Need to get these in your collection. The average price you are looking for is somewhere between the $19 to $58 for 4K HD. So look, it does pay to shop around to get a decent price. Let's go to the scorecard and see how this one shapes up. Now, for the final score, we get a grand total of 88 out of 100. Now that's a super score for a super movie.
I see what you did there.
Yes, this is by far a must-have for any superhero fans out there of any type. Even if you're just an average movie fan, or you are one of these big collectors like myself, this is an absolute classic that should be the cornerstone of any physical media collection out there.
Truer words have never been spoken.
Hey, so if you like this and you want to see some more of my reviews, why don't you click that one there? Maybe you want to see some of my collection updates. Got you covered too. Why don't you click that one there? And of course, don't forget to do the most important thing, throw me a like, and don't forget to hit that subscription button on the way out. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next time.